Grateful for everything that's led me to this point. And to you.
My entire class was summoned to another world, except for me. A class of high schoolers gets isekaid, except for one guy, who despite not getting isekaid, he still got the powers. Now he just chills out until some sort of big threat emerges and he goes and mops the floor with them. This manga has been on a hiatus for the last 3 years. I couldn't find any more information on this. The artist hasn't posted anything since 2021. I think I'll hide my true ability to the last moment. In a world where people make contracts with gods to get powers, a boy who everyone thinks is weak, but in fact is just hiding his true strength, finally finds a reason to wield that strength, and that is to help a nameless goddess. Fun fact, this is when the Protector appeared for the first time. This one is still ongoing. I'm keeping up with it, but I just don't like it as much as I used to. Mainly because of what happened in chapter 21 and 22. That was extremely disappointing. Everything leading up to it was great, and it was shaping up to be a really good development. Yuno was going to pretend to be a new evil god in order to change the logic of the world, and in order to do that, he needs to send a message. He resolved himself. He was going to kill the knights that were attacking him, which was very confusing. Still, it was going to be a very interesting development, but they fumbled it at the last second. Yuno hesitated, other people got involved, then he started crying saying he doesn't want to do it. And I'm sitting there like, what the fuck are you doing, you dumbass? The plan is to scare them, you don't need to fucking kill them. Just beat them up, break a few limbs, maybe chop a few if you're feeling extra. Anyway, it was stupid and extremely confusing what was going on. Also, the recent chapters have been quite boring as well. The only reason I still read it is for Athena. That's it. The story of an unemployed champion and a princess who together find their happiness. In the world of the manga, when you are born you get a job, and that determines your skills and worth. Those who are born jobless are worthless. But the protagonist, despite being jobless, trained and dominated the Colosseum, becoming a champion. However, he was unceremoniously exiled from the country. After a bit of wandering, he meets a princess who hires him. The manga ended after 39 chapters, but it seems this one is also stuck in limbo. 7 volumes, but the translation can barely finish 3. It got translated, dropped, then picked up by a group that did a subpar translation, which I couldn't really force myself to read. Then they dropped it shortly after. I don't even know whether it properly finished or was it just another rushed cancellation. But anyway, I still enjoy the manga. We got to know the reason why Futa was exiled and his motivation. And the motivation of the princess, since she seemed to be a very enigmatic character. I also love the subplot of warriors just wanting to fight strong opponents and have fun battling. Eiyuu Kyoushitsu. After the hero risked his life to be the demon lord, he joins a school in hope of having the normal life he never had and make friends. This manga. I need to sit down for this one. Would I recommend this manga now? No. You see, Eiyuu Kyoushitsu is a stupid fun manga. One of those manga that you just turn off your brain and enjoy. You don't expect much, but it's still fun. So I'm in awe at how even though I didn't expect much, it still managed to disappoint me. No, I don't think disappointing is the right word. More like repulsive. 2 words. Soft NTR. The author just keeps putting girls, especially the main heroine, in situations to make the protagonist Blade jealous. Now jealousy is part of the arsenal of a writer. It can be a very compelling tool when used correctly. But here, there is no fucking arsenal. There's just this. Every single fucking time they try to quote-unquote develop Blade's character, they try to do it by making him jealous. It's so fucking aggravating. You obviously just want to make an NTR manga, so just do it! It's disgusting and a complete waste of a good base for a character. Cause Blade was born in war. All he knew his entire life is fighting. He has no awareness of the opposite sex, nor intimacy. There are so many ways you can approach developing such a character. Yet for some reason, the author seems to be intent on cucking his own protagonist. I would have been fine with it if it was used sparingly, but it was every single time. By volume 10, I had enough. I said, if they do this shit one more time, there will be hell to pay. And lo and behold, 70% of volume 11 is about the heroine marrying some fucking prince. And no, it's not one of those, oh she was forced to marry him cliches. Nobody forced her, she willingly accepted. Man, fuck you and your soft NTR bullshit. I'm leaving and I'm taking Blade with me, cause you don't deserve him. Also, this manga had an anime, but it looked like shit, so I didn't watch it. Good day. Redline. A teacher works at a school/orphanage where they take care of a bunch of orphan children, until some men in suits barged in and shot the headmaster and the teacher and took the kids. The headmaster gave the teacher a red mask that gave him superhuman strength and pumped him full of rage. So he goes on a bloody journey to take back his kids. So I was gonna complain that this manga doesn't have a translation and whatnot, because for the longest time it was abandoned. But as I was making this video, I decided to check it out just to see. And I find it finished and fully translated. I don't usually do this, but shout out to Astra Scans, man. You guys rock. Now, as you can see, I am extremely excited to binge Redline. So I'll be back in 1 millisecond. And I'm back. It was so damn good. I was easily gonna make it one of my top 3 manhwa. That was until chapter 27. From there, it's just a drop off. Now it doesn't become bad, it's just rushed. And I'm talking lightning speed. So what I'm assuming happened is they got notified that this manhwa will be cancelled. So they quickly had to wrap everything up by chapter 40. Which is really sad, cause this manhwa obviously had a lot more to give. Lots of stories to tell, an interesting world that only started to open up, characters that were hyped up, but we never met. It's infuriating, really. Hundreds if not thousands of trash SSS ranker regressors, solo hairdressers, Sanjingwoo K-pop looking ass manhwa, and this gem gets cancelled. Also, even though it's rushed, I'm glad they showed us this police officer's story. It was short and sweet. The executed sage was reincarnated as a lich, started an all-out war. A sage and the hero whom he loved, after killing the demon lord, were betrayed and executed by humans. But he came back as a lich, and after taking his revenge, he came to the conclusion that humanity needs a common enemy in order to prosper. So he decides to become that ultimate evil, a demon lord. It's still ongoing, and it's still the best demon lord manga out there. Ragna Crimson. In a world where humans live under the terror of dragons, a boy receives a message from his future self. It gave him power and told him to protect the one person he cares about. So in order to do that, he sets out to annihilate the dragons. I regret recommending this manga so soon, because it honestly deserves a video of its own. At the time, it was just a really good manga, but after the climax of the Bloodline of Wings arc, this has become my second favorite manga of all time. The climax of the first arc was one of the most fun I had since the Chimera Ant arc. Everybody shined, heroes and villains. Everybody was getting character development. Everybody was fighting tooth and nail to win. And the heroes can't even use any power of friendship bullshit because the villains also had strong camaraderie. So it was a fight between two close-knit groups, with one being severely underpowered. Yet they still put the fear of death in them. I was at the edge of my seat for the whole thing. And don't even get me started on the genius that is chapter 48. The title of the chapter is No Need for Words. And sure enough, throughout the entire chapter, not a single word is said. Just two powerhouses going at each other's throats in a raw, uninterrupted battle.
So good. It's so good.
Revenge of the Soul Eater. A weak adventurer is set up by his former party members and used as monster bait for them to escape. But that incident was the trigger for him to awaken his dormant power and seek revenge. This one got cancelled. It's tragic, really. They didn't even have a chance to cook.
Were you killed?
Sadly, yes. But I lived.
How's that for a roller coaster? The manga got a reboot, and from what I heard, it's better. I think the only sad thing is that they changed the artist. The previous artist was the same artist of Yojo Senkai. She's really good, and it's gonna be hard to top something like this. I did see the new art style, and it's not even close to the previous one. Anyway, we'll let them cook and see. Return of the legendary Spear Knight. A knight gets betrayed by his friend and lord and is killed out of fear. He somehow goes back in time to his childhood. I haven't read this manhwa in a while. I think I stopped shortly after the first time skip. I just got bored of it, I guess. But I did see people saying that this manhwa became trash later, and mainly citing chapter 126. So I took a look at it and my god, calling it a slideshow would be a compliment. From my understanding, they ended the major hyped up battle in 3 panels, killed a major character off screen, had a time skip, and now the MC is missing. Wow. Good thing I jumped ship when I did. Dragon Claw. A girl escapes her clan in order to search for a spring that can cure her illness. After years of searching, she meets a lightning warrior who knows the location of the spring. They head to it while fighting enemies that get in their way, with others scheming in the shadows. This manga is still dead. The other has two new works. One is called Abyss Blade, which is on a hiatus, and the other is called My Wife is a Half Dragon. You can read them both on Webtoon. Battle of the Six Realms. A cyberpunk-ish tournament battle shonen, where people fight using cybernetic enhancements. Now I thought this manga was cancelled, and it was, but I recently found that the author continued the story in another magazine.
But I lived!
This sequel is called Rokudou Tousouki New Round, and this makes me really happy, because I especially like the romance in this manga. Sadly, this sequel hasn't been translated yet. Arata and Natsume getting married. The protagonist marries a serial killer on death row in order to trick her into telling him the location of one of the victim's missing head. But who's manipulating who? The manga ended earlier last year, and thankfully, for the most part it's still getting translated regularly. And I'm still at the edge of my seat. Great story and we're only halfway through it. Also, this manga got an adaptation. Not an anime, but a live action movie. I don't know how it turned out, nor how did they manage to adapt 106 chapters in one movie, but the trailer looks really good. And now I'm wondering, should I watch the movie or wait until the manga finishes? The movie came out in September. What do you wish for with those murky eyes? Record of Hyzark War. A guy gets isekai with no cheats or powers, so he joins the army to provide for his family. The manga went on a hiatus for almost a year, but recently came back. I was starting to get bored of this manga, but from chapter 17 and on, we are so back! We're finally done with the prologue. Risou no Hime Seikatsu. A guy is summoned into another world and was offered to marry the queen. So he accepts and began his new life as a queen consort, with lots of politics and schemes. It's still ongoing and it's still very good. One of the best political fantasies out there. Ryuuma no Gagou. In a world where humanity is under the constant threat of monsters called the albinos or whiteskins, a legendary warrior named Ryuuma fights and gives people hope. But in fact, Ryuuma is not just one person. Ryuuma is a name that is inherited after the previous Ryuuma dies. And this manga is the story of Ryuuma's war. This manga was already finished when I talked about it, but the translation is yet to catch up. But we're getting there, slowly but surely. We're just 15 chapters away. I actually haven't read this manga since volume 6, cause I'm still waiting for it to end so I can binge it. There was a cute girl in the hero's party, so I tried confessing to her. The MC gets isekai'd as a demon working for the Demon Lord. He was chilling until the hero came to raid the castle, and that's where he saw the Saintess and fell in love with her. He confessed his feelings, changed his appearance, and moved to a human city to live like a human. It's still running, and it's still pretty fun. Sachiiro no One Room. A girl is kidnapped by her stalker, but she's actually happy about it, because she ran away from her abusive parents, and the guy who kidnapped her was nice. Even the reason why he stalked her is different than what you may think. And so began Sachi's happy life in that small one-room apartment. The manga ended a while back, and damn, this opens up an old wound. Let me show you something. I made this tweet right after finishing the manga. I still think it's a great ending, and I like it, but fuck it all. You know what? I'm gonna talk about it. So massive spoiler for the ending. Why did he have to die, man? Fuck! I know he died like the realest motherfucker, but shit, man, they both deserved happiness. It's called Sachi's one room of happiness because he was there with her in the room. Her happiness is not complete without him. Fuck, what a great manga. 10 out of 10. I became the Tyrant of a defense game. A streamer gets transported into an extremely difficult tower defense game, and now he has to lead an army to defend his town against unspeakably tough enemies and survive. It's still ongoing, and man, we thought the first battle was intense. I had thought that after the first battle, the manhwa would mellow out a bit, until way later in the story. But boy was I wrong. They somehow kept up the stakes and the intensity throughout every battle. What a great manhwa. We now know why the MC has such terrible luck when it comes to the enemies and battles. We've met some cool characters, the MC is still fun to watch, he's not some cringy asshole like most other manhwa. The latest battle was versus the Vampire King, and it was fucking awesome! We lost a lot of cool characters, including my favorite one. I'm gonna miss you, old girl. It was too soon. Doombreaker. After humanity was annihilated by an evil god and his demons, the protagonist, being the last human alive, does a literal last man stand versus the evil god, but he loses. So he blows himself up thus injuring the evil god. The evil god, furious that a mortal injured him, demanded from the other gods to bring him back to life. So they decided to send the MC back in time before the apocalypse. Now that he has a chance to save humanity and his loved ones, he starts putting things in motion. This manhwa is currently on a hiatus for more than a year now. Anyway, it's still good. No, in fact it's actually better than what I had initially thought. It does a lot of generic things, but it does it with such passion and love that it becomes fresh. Also, it succeeds in two aspects that 80% of manhwa out there fail at, and those are the side characters and the romance. Of course, this only concerns action manhwa. The Newbie Is Too Strong. In order to get money for his orphanage, the protagonist decides to conquer the giant tower, armed by mysterious videos that show him going through the tower in the future, and his cute pets called the Popoi. It's still ongoing, but I haven't read it in a while. The story started to focus heavily more on each floor and its NPCs, which I didn't find very interesting, and I was bored. Maybe I'll come back to it in the future, but who knows. Reformation of the Deadbeat Noble. A lazy kid who only sleeps all day. One day he dreams of a man swinging a massive sword that ignites a fire in him to learn swordsmanship. So he gets up and embarks on a journey of self-discovery to become a swordsman. Still ongoing, and it's still good. Though I do have to talk about chapter 104 and 105. They were atrocious and confusing with terrible pacing. But that's it, we're cruising at the moment. Damn Reincarnation. Hime was part of the hero party, who set out to kill the demon lords. During one fight, Hime sacrificed himself to save the hero. He was then reborn as a descendant of the hero 3 centuries later, and finds out that the hero made some sort of a deal with the demon lord, and the demons still exist. Now his mission is to find out what happened after he died, and fix whatever mess his friends left him with. This also has been on a hiatus for more than a year. Other than that, it's still really good. Cervin. A kingdom destroys another kingdom and kills their saintess that was seen in a giant dragon. Now with the dragon free, the saintess's daughter, the princess, summons a spirit and sacrifices her most precious memories, the memories of her father, in order to attack the dragon and lock him in place. Now the girl and her father, whom she doesn't remember, set out on a journey to find the avatars and ask their help in defeating the dragon. We need to talk about this one, because the first volume was reworked, with the first 3 chapters getting completely retconned and changed, better pacing, and some chapters were entirely removed. To be honest, I like the old volume more. Yeah, it was a bit rough and they messed up the pacing sometimes, but it captured a certain atmosphere. It had this enigmatic feel to it. It's this atmosphere that made me recommend this manga. But sadly, that atmosphere is nowhere to be found now. The manga seems to be heavily inspired by Berserk, with a lot more blood, gore, and nudity. There's even a full-on sex scene later in the volume, which is quite unfortunate actually, because I despise unnecessary sex scenes in any media, and this one adds nothing. My daughter left the nest and returned as an S-rank adventurer. It's the adventures of a man who lives in a village and his daughter who moved to the capital and became an S-rank adventurer. It's still ongoing with the same good quality. It did get an anime adaptation, however, it's very mid. Just stick with the manga in my opinion. Dungeon Sherpa. The MC is a dungeon Sherpa, meaning he's a courier/supporter who guides people through the dungeon. He works hard to support his little sister. The story starts when one day he gets hired by the hero party who plans to clear the dungeon. It's still ongoing alright, but no one seems to want to pick it up. We're already 7 volumes behind. Please don't let this fire manga die, especially after what happened in chapter 19. That shit was phenomenal. Yakusai no Moushigo to Seijo no Meikyuu. A guy is summoned into a tower to support some kids who got isekaid. This one I really regret recommending, cause it ended without doing anything, just a wet fart of an ending. It also didn't help that the last few chapters were bad. It's a shame, I liked the girls. Mary Grave. Honestly, if you don't know what Mary Grave is, just do yourself a favor and go read it. It's basically Berserk meets One Piece. It's the story of an undead guy traveling the world and collecting ingredients for a ritual to resurrect his wife. The author is a new manga called Sawara and the Monster Houses. It's a manga about building houses for monsters. It's not really my cup of tea, but the art is great. The Echinosi family's deadly sins. A family wakes up in a hospital after a car accident, and they all have amnesia. But they remain optimistic and decide to work together to regain their memories. But when they go back home, they find out that they may not have been the happy family they thought they were. The manga started off great, and kept on getting more and more chaotic. It It ended some time ago. There was a good ending, but the story left a lot of plot holes and unexplained things. And sometimes things were just convoluted just for the sake of being convoluted. Anyway, the main concept of the story is not so much fixing a family, but understanding what a family is. Honestly, Lilo and Stitch did it better.
This is my family. I found it all on my own. It's little and broken, but still good. Yeah, still good.
Kiba no Tabishonen, the arms peddler. In a post-apocalyptic fantasy world, a boy's family was killed by a gang, leaving him the only survivor. Then he is picked up by a roaming weapons merchant and begins his adventure seeking revenge. Give up. She's not coming back. I know. It's still on a hiatus. How long has it been now? 7, 8 years? At first we waited, but it seems that both the author and the artist have moved on. The author has a new manga called Tsukumonogakari, and the artist did the art for Zombie Ship back in 2018. So yeah, I guess health was never the issue. So with a heavy heart, I, manga barista, am giving up. Versus, a manga made by the author of One Punch Man. Just a story about humans fighting enemies that are way stronger than them. When I talked about this manga, I only talked about chapter 1. And the funny thing is, I thought that chapter was crazy. The manga just kept increasing the level of craziness at every opportunity. It's really fun. Though I do wonder how will this formula hold up in the long run. Colorless. After a massive solar flare, the world lost all color, all technology and knowledge, and humanity became mutated. Only a little bit of color remained on Earth, and it held massive amounts of energy. A video, who is a researcher on color, plus neo-noir Batman, who fights a cult that is trying to abuse the power of color. One day he saves a girl who has a normal human face, and that's the catalyst to all the shit that happens next. Colorless is over, and I gotta say, Kent is a fucking genius. What a spectacle. Did you see that climax with the whole color and destruction and that giant flower thing? It was phenomenal. There are so many good moments in this manga, I can't even choose one. It was a great ending, but it did leave us with a lot of questions, like where the hell did the scripture even come from? And why did colors that hold power suddenly appear anyway? The author has a new kaiju battle manga called Daikaiju Gayatima. I read a couple of chapters of it. The art is still really good, but kaiju manga just isn't my thing. Ramia-Yana. Each time a new demon lord appeared, a human hero has slain it, pushing back the demons in the Darklands. As the cycle starts over again, a mysterious ancient hero called Ramia reappears. Meanwhile, an abnormal demon army suddenly strikes the kingdom. This manga is still ongoing. The updates are a bit slow, but it's hardly unexpected, considering this manga is made by one guy, with a very good and detailed art style. This one has a long title, but I just call it Backwater Swordmaster. A sword instructor from the countryside is invited to the capital by one of his successful students, and there is where his adventure begins, where he realizes that he may not be as normal as he thought he was. It's still ongoing, and it's still an absolute treat to the eyes. Literally some of the best sword fights you'll ever see. Also, Kuroni is still my favorite. The updates have been painfully slow lately. We've been in the same arc for quite some time. This arc took so long, I can barely remember how it started, mainly because no one translated it. But the climax was so good. That's what I call show don't tell. Also, I'm glad they actually killed the guy. I'm really sick of watching a quote-unquote fight to the death where no one dies. An anime was announced recently. The art style looks different from the manga. I don't like that Beryl looks a bit younger. But honestly, the only thing that matters is the fights. They have to do those right. Kamigoro Shinumao. After the demon lord Hime conquered the world, his next target was the demon god. They fought a fierce battle until the demon god used some bullshit insta-win skill and killed Hime. Hime then used reincarnation magic to come back to life 500 years later as a human and finish what he started. It's still ongoing and I'm still enjoying it. The story is still trashy, but the art style more than makes up for it. It's still some top shelf gourmet shit. The ultimate middle-aged hunter travels to another world. A strong middle-aged hunter and his harem of monster girls travel to different worlds to hunt down monsters known as the 7 Deadly Sins, all in order to save the world. So yeah, I'm confused about this one. I mean, it says it's finished, but it ends halfway through the story, and the last page says end of part 1. How the fuck am I supposed to interpret this? Is it over for good? Did it get cancelled? Is there gonna be a sequel? Was it just an ad for the light novel all along? We couldn't find any information. Anyway, it's a very fun manga, and I would hate it if it ended like that. Hello, I'm the hero's father, a comedy manga about a boy who is the son of a powerful witch and an overpowered father. He was selected to be the hero and kill the demon lord, so he went to the capital with his fiancée. Years later, his parents found out that their son had strayed from the right path. He abandoned his fiancée and indulged in women and alcohol, so they set out to give him the ass whooping of a lifetime and correct him. I was surprised to find out that this manga ended after only 15 chapters. The translation isn't caught up yet. The art is still not the best, but the story makes up for it. We finally got to see the confrontation between the father and his son, and I liked it. It was good. I got an ass whooping and a lesson. Yutsumu no Saikyo Tamer. The protagonist is a tamer who can only tame phantasma, which are powerful spirits that none can see or hear except for him. After he got rejected by every guild in the country because they didn't believe he's a tamer, he moved with his hundreds of phantasma to another country. And that's where he was finally recognized and began his adventure. This manga is still ongoing and it's still enjoyable, but the English translation is very behind. Bibliomania. In a post-apocalyptic world, a girl wakes up in a white room with the only thing in it is a door with a number on it. A snake man tells her that in order to leave, she'll have to go through each door until the first door numbered 0, but the further away she gets from her room, the more her body will rot. Nothing new here. The manga is already finished and there's nothing new from the author nor the artist. Suzumi no Hati. A girl and her pet travel an empty post-apocalyptic world in search for any human survivors. It's still ongoing and it's still the same atmospheric and melancholic experience. Chapter 22 was especially hype. We got to see some good action. Heartgear. In a post-apocalyptic world ruled by robots, Ru is the only human left. She lived alone with a robot named Zet who raised her. One day they got a new addition to their family, a robot named Chrome, and they lived happily until they were attacked by a rogue unit and Zet was destroyed. Now Ru and Chrome with his new powers travel the wasteland in search for a suitable body to bring Zet back to life. This manga finished after 52 chapters, but I'm more inclined to think it got cancelled, because if I had to describe it in one word, it would be unsatisfying. Everything after the Valhalla arc is meh. The fights are still cool, but they are never satisfying. Chrome keeps getting his ass whooped as if he never fought a battle in his life. For example, he fights these two. For 2 chapters straight, he is treated like a sandbag. She literally calls him a sandbag. Then when Ru helps him, he gets up and the fight ends with 1 punch. But of course he doesn't finish her off. Nor does he go for the other one who is now defenseless and just runs away. Then their big sister follows him to take revenge on him for some fucking reason, and she of course mops the floor with him. The guy literally got the Yamcha treatment. They do this split personality thingy, so he gets more powerful, but it's never addressed again. Anyway, Chrome gets a new cool transformation that we never see again, and do you know what he does with it? Fuck all, cause the fight just stops. All these enemies were obviously supposed to be opponents for Chrome, but they are instead put against each other and fight off screen. Also, this bitch, who was hyped up for half of the series, and she's a 5th generation just like Chrome, she never even meets Chrome. She just fights another side character, and then the fight just stops and we never see her again. In fact, we never see anyone again. The guys who were trying to kill Ru, the guy that helped them, the guy who made her headband, their friends from the beginning of the manga, no one. The manga tries to dabble in philosophical existentialism with the whole what's the difference between a human and a robot jargon, but it ultimately goes nowhere, thankfully. Because existentialism in manga always puts me to sleep. They always manage to come up with the stupidest non-answers and pretend to be some profound shit. Oh, you only get 1 life, so you should live it to the fullest.
You've only got 1 opportunity in this world. As soon as you're off this planet, you're on.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. The fuck does a full life even mean? Sorry, almost went into a tangent. And don't get me started on that whole choice thing at the end. Basically, Ru is entrusted with 2 options. Either bring back humanity and they live with gears in coexistence, or say fuck humanity and let them die in space. Cause humans are bad and destroyed Earth. Yeah, cause gears are doing so much better. Wow, what a hard choice. Gee willikers. Coexistence or genocide? Shut the fuck up, you glorified toaster. And I'm not even gonna attempt to open the can of worms that is the human village. Anyway, it's a good manga that could have been a great manga if they have given the author the chance to flesh out his story. Magic Maker. A guy who really wanted to find magic in real life dies and gets isekaid into a fantasy world that has no magic. So he starts his journey of experimentation and discovery in order to bring magic to life. This manga ended abruptly, because it turns out it was just an ad for the novel, which is one of the most infuriating things ever. Anyway, even if this manga had continued, I may have dropped it, because they tricked us into believing that this manga was going to be like Dr. Stone but for magic, that they were discovering something new, changing the world forever, only to go and introduce a vampire who throws magic left and right. Then turns out there are people who know magic and it's just kept secret, and the MC is a descendant of a bloodline of magicians or something, which is so stupid. They fooled us into thinking this is gonna be an interesting story.
We've been tricked, we've been backstabbed, and we've been quite possibly bamboozled.
And surprisingly, it had an anime adaptation recently. The Witch and the Knight will survive. I can't. It hurts too much. The story of a son of a noble who came back after hunting only to find everyone in his town dead. Thinking it was the witch's doing, he goes out to hunt her, only to find that it wasn't actually the witch. It was caused by a natural disaster. After accepting that it was no one's fault, the guy finds two girls, the only survivors, then asks the witch for her help in rebuilding their domain. This one got cancelled after only 21 chapters. It was peak from start to finish. Fucking why? This manga was straight fire! And to make things even worse, this manga was published in Young Ace Up magazine. And do you know what else is in that magazine? Fucking The Wise Man's Grandchild, Redo of Healer, and a brain-dead manga about the guy who pushed a button for 100 million years. God! Like, who do I blame here? Does the publisher just make shitty decisions, or is the Japanese audience fucking lobotomites? Oh, and to make things even worse...
But wait! There's more!
The artist can't catch a break. Because before this, do you know what he drew? The Wolf Can't Fucking Sleep! One of the best isekais I've ever read. But it got cancelled. In the same magazine. B-rank adventurer with an evil look becomes a daddy for the protagonist and his childhood friends. A powerful adventurer with a scary face finds a group of orphan children living in the slums, so he adopts them. This manga did not stay the same. It got even better! Gray adopted the children and bought a big house for all of them. God, it's so wholesome and so freaking cute! Oh, hello there. What are you doing here? Where's the protector? He went out to blow off steam? What do you mean? He read chapter 10. Oh? Oh! Shit! Surviving the game as a barbarian. A guy gets transported into a hard game as a barbarian, and now he has to somehow survive without letting people find out his true identity. It's still ongoing, and it's still mostly fun. I'ma be honest with you, I stopped reading this manhwa until recently. All because they got rid of Einar's muscles. They had a good and unique character and turned her into another generic manhwa girl. It pissed me off so much. But I was glad to find out that I wasn't alone. Apparently the novel readers also hated it when it happened the first time, and basically bullied the author into bringing back her muscles. I was also sad to see that this manhwa couldn't escape the curse of the asshole manhwa MC. You hate to see it. But I gotta wonder, do Korean writers genuinely think that someone who is rude and always annoyed and acts like everyone is stupid except for him is cool? If so, that would be very, sad. It's the equivalent of the Japanese wimpy beta MC. Both are everywhere and both are shit. Yomi no Tsugai. From the author of Full Metal Alchemist, it's an action manga about people who control demons and fight with them, and the guy who discovers that him and his sister have unique powers and people are trying to hunt them down, so he decides to hunt them instead, while trying to uncover mysteries and find their parents. The manga is still ongoing, and it's still an 11 out of 10 manga, with Soria, wand and sword. In a world of magicians, a boy who can't use magic puts all his effort into sword fighting in order to catch up to his childhood friend who is one of the most powerful witches in the world, while also uncovering mysteries about the world and himself. The manga is still ongoing and it's still good. It had an anime adaptation, which I haven't watched yet, but from what I saw, it looks really good. Gori-sen, a comedy manga about high schoolers who keep finding themselves in typical horror situations that are cut short because their PE teacher Gori-sensei is beyond overpowered. He's basically the horror monster for the horror monsters. And the funniest part is that he's always oblivious to the threat. This manga ended sometime after I talked about it, and it was great from start to finish. This manga seriously needs an abbreviation like Danmachi. Do you have any idea how many times I had to go back to my own video just to remember the title? A guy gets isekai to 100 different worlds, getting stronger with each one, helping the heroes there on their journeys to kill their demon lords, then getting kicked out each time, all in order to get back home. But when he finds out that the worlds he went to may not have fared as well as he thought, he sacrifices his 100 years of work and travels back in time to make sure their stories have happy endings. The manga is still ongoing. Don't you love it when you get the feeling that a manga is gonna be good and it turns out to be true? This manga is so damn beautiful, man. The only gripe I have is that I had hoped they would show us more of the gang's adventure. Just a few more chapters similar to the Rock Eater quest. Also, we didn't get to learn much about Gonzo. Other than that, it's really good. The first story wrapped up wonderfully, and Ed moved on to the next world. Of course, along with the best girl. Or should I say, best wife. Cause a girl that would travel dimensions just to find you, boy, if you don't wipe her up ASAP, I'm gonna be pissed. The Night King Who Returned with a God. A solo leveling-esque Gates and Dungeons manhwa, where a guy gets isekai'd, becomes a king, then his world is destroyed, and now he's overpowered and back on Earth. I actually didn't recommend this manhwa, I just clowned on it. The comments on that video were so funny. Some were just sad. A lot of people didn't like that I called the trash manhwa that they like, trash. Now some comments were actually valid, like the ones that say that they just read the manhwa to laugh and treat it as a comedy. But there are those who said that the manhwa is a comedy and was always intended to be a comedy, not to be taken seriously. Which, if you believe that, then you're actually stupid. FFF Class Trash Hero, that's a comedy. This is not a comedy. I'm not really wearing my reading glasses, but I don't seem to find that comedy tag. Do you? Some people just don't want to admit that they like trash. Saint of the Black Kite, an amazing manga about a saint who blames all his misfortunes on his goddess. This one got cancelled, which is actually a shame. It gave me a good laugh, and I will always be grateful for it, because it was a video that put me on the map for so many people. Dogs and heroes don't dress up. After getting rejected, a boy gets isekai'd, becomes a hero and defeats his demon lord, that comes back to Earth years later with no job or education, until he finds out that monsters and magic secretly exist in his world. When I recommended it, this manga was abandoned in the cold. You called me a fool, a madman. Now look, and curse the folly of your own hubris. You guys should really have more faith in me. Maoto Yusha no Tatakai no Orade. A guy gets isekai'd and becomes best friends with a hero. So he works hard in order to protect the people around him and support his homie. It's still ongoing, but the updates are a bit slow. Majo no Kaigashu. A girl who makes magical paintings using her blood gets locked up and taken advantage of, with her only solace is a drawing named Loki. When she's about to die, she brings Loki to life and asks him to locate all her paintings and burn them. And a century later, Loki is still hunting down the corrupted paintings. The manga is finished and fully translated. I already said when I talked about this manga that I dropped it. I did go back to see how it ended though, and it was a good ending. Just don't think about the fact that none of the bad guys faced repercussions. But what do I care? I'm not invested in this manga. Necromancer Academy and the Genius Summoner. A boy gets an invitation to join a very prestigious necromancy academy, and there he makes friends, goes on adventures, and discovers his destiny. Still ongoing and still a lot of fun. The negative hero and the chief of the demon army. A demon army general faces the hero sent to kill him, but it turns out she's just a miserable child. So he adopts her, and together with his subordinates, they show her the happiness she deserves. The updates are a bit slow, but it's still ongoing, and it's still cute as hell. Buredo and Bastardo. A dark fantasy set in the world of wizardry. It follows the story of an adventurer searching for his memories. He adopts a bloodthirsty goblin of a girl, and together they go on dungeon adventures. This manga is still ongoing, but it hasn't been translated in a couple of months. I hope it's just because the scanlators are slow, and not because it got an official translation. Because the official volume 2 doesn't come out until March. Oh boy, I can't wait to read volume 4 in 2026! And they wonder why people pirate manga. An anime adaptation was announced. Marimashita Iruma-kun, 5th episode of Mafia. An alternate version of Welcome to the Demon School Iruma-kun, but it takes place in a mafia setup. It's still ongoing, and it just keeps getting better with each chapter. The mercenary bomber explodes all cheaters. An empire messed with the wrong person when they summoned the crazy mercenary bomber. We've had a few chapters since I made the video, which basically confirmed that the other isekai people did survive. And with this, we are finally caught up. It's interesting how these manga developed and changed as time went on. Some kept up the same quality without faltering. Others evolved into even better stories, and some ruined every interest I had in them. But I will still make videos regardless of what the future holds for this manga. So thank you for your continuous support and love for this channel and the videos I put out. As always, I'll see you in the next video, so do take care of yourself.
I hope you found something good.